Hello, welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging, and Happy New Year. This is our first stream in 2025, so we have to set the tone, and we've done so by firing Jeremy from the stream. As I did the joke on Monday back in 2024. He's cut. He's too high maintenance, and he's got way too many writers. Something about M&Ms and things like that. I don't know. I can't remember what the joke was I made the other day, but he's not here. He'll be back next week. Possibly. We'll see. If we have more fun without Jeremy, should we just like cut Jeremy from like the game? Just be like,
I can't imagine how we'll have more fun without Chauncey, because I
know. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like we could make him an NPC. Chauncey can still hang around, and we cut Jeremy. Well, that's what we could do. But
now you're thinking.
Thinking outside the box here. Just thinking outside the box. All right, but yeah, we're back. We're playing some Swords of the Serpentine. It's been a couple weeks. I've completely forgotten all the rules. I was doing some prep today, and then I remembered I don't remember how to play, so I should probably review those. So yeah, there could be some clunkiness tonight, but we'll do our best. And Long, I see you have your puffy shirt back on again.
I'm back.
It's good. It's good. Okay. Are we ready to dive in? We want to just get started?
We are.
Excited.
Do it.
Excited. Okay. So this is what, episode 3 technically. Okay, this is episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
We've had our session 0, and this is our third session of actual play. Last time around, if you recall, this whole arc, this adventure has Tiebreaker's Day. It is the holiday within Giglio Hill, the neighborhood in Alderhall where your noble family, the Mainwallens, live. And the Tiebreaker's Day parade was interrupted when a murder victim was found in a necropolis on Giglio Hill. And that became a big thing. Murder. It's coming back. Aaron mentioned it. Murder. If you watch this channel, you know that there's a certain show on Peacock that I love called The Traitors. Anyhow, never mind.
Back on the 9th.
It's almost back. We can't watch it week to week. I can't. We have to like let it compile and then dive into it full because I can't. Okay, so last time around, you could watch
it every week though. You could.
I could, but I don't want to, and that means subscribing to Peacock for multiple months, and I just am against that. I just feel like let's just stockpile and do it one month. Okay, so you all kind of got in a little bit of trouble because it looked like maybe you all might have had something to do with the murder, meaning your family. And the 3 big families of Giglio Hill, the noble families, are yourselves, the Mainwallens, your mortal enemies, your rivals, the Bonaventurers, and then the devout and the Church of Denari aligned Carnuccios. And you guys got into a fight because the dead body that was found was like broke one of their funerary statues, and so you got this big scuffle, and then things eventually died down. Last time around, the Carnuccios finally left. You all started searching around the necropolis, trying to dig into this a little bit more before the City Watch arrived. Vincent, you chased down this ghost that tried to escape and eventually found him. We'll get to that in a second. Fortuna and Solavita, you started examining the body with some more time to look at it. Arkadiy and Chauncey, you followed some tracks that Arkadiy had found. You know that the necropolis is a well cared for structure, and the fact that there were all these tracks before the parade actually arrived was kind of suspicious. Solavita, you deduced that the discolored lips and gums on the body were likely from some kind of numbing agent that leeches used to use before surgery, but it was kind of like phased out because of its addictive qualities. Fortuna, you verified that the murdering dagger was not a forgery, but in fact had a authentic Mainwallen insignia on it. And you also remembered vaguely that like your family kind of sells off some of its treasures to maintain its lifestyle. Arkadiy and Chauncey, you found a hidden path to a wing from the Age of Assassination, which sort of predates the Putrid Tide many generations ago. And one of your funerary statues, one of your family's funerary statues was stolen. Solavita, you were able to surmise that it was dedicated to Castellar Mainwallen, who was brother to Eliana II. And who, according to what you were able to find, or at least what you knew off the top of your head, was like a protector and brother to that matriarch from like this era of like sorceress assassins. Also was father to like your great 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 grandmother, so a direct descendant from you, or you are a direct descendant from him. Vincent was able to track down the ghost, interrogated him, and he learned that the ghost was named Carlo Moretti, that he was not a Bonaventure despite being dressed as one, and that his death was voluntary, and he did so in order to pay off some kind of debt that he owed to a figure known as the Canal Queen. Arkadiy, you had some Thief Guild contacts, specifically Helena, and you were able to learn that the Canal Queen has for a very long time kind of been an urban legend, this creation that thieves and criminals sort of point to as a way to ward off bad behavior. But of late, someone has taken on that mantle and has been sort of making moves in the city, specifically against nobles in Alderhall. Nobody specifically knows their identity, but she was able to point you to a tavern called the Tarnished Coin. It's in one of the foreigners' districts. Chauncey met with his old eel ball friend, Piss Pot Randy, and asked him to check in on Carlo Moretti's widow, Michaela, who very much did not want a new father for her children. And then elsewhere, Fortuna and Solavita, you spoke with a canal watcher named Mario, who saw a group of people coming and going from the Acropolis in the wee hours before the parade. And when they left, Carlo Moretti, the blue Bonaventure dressed person, was not there. So hopefully we're all caught up. Everyone we had a break, so I figured let's do a bigger than normal review. So let's dive in. We're going to say scene opens. It is nighttime within Eversink. And we open back in the Alderhall district of Eversink, and specifically we're back in Giglio Hill, and the camera pans across your familial estate, Mainwallen Manor. We can see that your home is most well categorized, or is best categorized by being very sprawling, erratic, and sort of analogous architecture. It looks like a mess. It looks like the Homer Simpson car, if anyone is familiar with that reference, because the estate has dozens of entrances and exits to the point where if it wasn't such a labyrinthine manor, that would probably be a security concern. But we see this big place. We see the parade reverie has died down. The normal nighttime Giglio Hill business has sort of broken out. And I'm going to say we open up in like a grand dining hall. And all of you are there. There's this massive table. Your matriarch, Eliana IV, is not there. But you do see that there are some well-known advisors to her. Pelletier, Mainwallen, he is a man in his 60s or so. He's got this kind of fading red slick back hair and these big gold spectacles. Fortuna, you would know that he is a man who's kind of supposedly in charge of familial accounts, though it's probably more his servants that do that. But he's in charge of them nonetheless. There's Althaviria, who is one of your rivals, Fortuna, for the potential next matriarch for the Mainwallen family. She is here as well. A little bit older than you, a cousin of some kind. We can figure out how you guys are connected to all of them in a minute. But you would know that she is the one to go to when it comes to like the kind of political ramifications of various things that might go down, noble family connections, and that sort of thing. And there's a few other folks that we can flesh out as you see fit. Probably a dozen people in here, all eating. Servants coming and going, bringing these grandiose plates. We can see along the walls are a handful of other chairs and people, likely servants, that you can see spaced around. And everyone is just discussing and eating and drinking. All of you are here as well. We'll say Chauncey is here as well somewhere. I'm going to turn it over to you. Is there something that anybody is looking to do as this dinner amongst your family continues?
Fortuna is definitely making a big show when we come in. She is going kind of straight to Eliana, and kind of hitting everyone who's here. So So very glad to see that we are all here. We are going to get to the bottom of all of this. We are going to get this taken care of, and kind of doing the like kiss on both cheeks greeting, like very showy that she is on top of this. She's got it taken care of. She's so glad that everyone's here. Family first, family first. Mwah, mwah.
Okay, so we'll say that Eliana is there, but we'll say Eliana is like at this somewhat elevated end of this immense table. And she is definitely a woman of a very advanced age. We call her a crone. She is probably around 100 years old, we would say. And she is obviously bedecked by makeup to not necessarily look that age. As you get close to her, Fortuna, and you smell like the fragrance coming off of her, her eyes kind of look to you with vague recognition as you talk and talk and talk. And that's when you hear a little clearing of the throat, and behind you, Althvira, again, one of your potential rivals for the next matriarch, speaks up.
Well, Fortuna, perhaps if you and your ilk wouldn't have made such a scene today, there wouldn't be as difficult a mess to clean up.
Oh, yes, my dear cousin. The scene was set for us. We absolutely did the best that we could, given the circumstances. Had you been there, you would have seen exactly what we were walking into and just how much everyone jumped to do what needed to be done.
What needed to be done?
See you.
What needed to be done? I have heard stories that what needed to be done is not attack our dear Carnuccio friends in a violent fit of rage and to take one of the Bonaventures hostage. This is all what is permeating about Giglio Hill, making our family look the fools, look the aggressors. Yes, Fortuna, I wish I was there so someone of substance and capability to keep things in order could have protected the family interests.
And she just twitches a bit.
Arkadiy whispers right behind her ear because he snuck up behind her while she was ranting. He's like, "Dear cousin, you must understand that we were attacked by the Carnucci for this perceived threat and defended against. I would strongly advise that you recalibrate your attack. If you want to lay blame at anyone for the fight, you should leave Fortuna alone and discuss it with me, because I was the one out there defending our family instead of
Yes, go to the kennels, dog. We usually don't feed your kind from the table. I did not say that you were attacked. I said that the rumors throughout the neighborhood were that you were the aggressors. Whether in actuality you were or weren't means nothing. It's all about perception.
Since you are the person within the family who is responsible for manipulating the politics and the noble families, perhaps you should do your job then and make truth of this.
You are talking far too much for what is your name even? Oh, I'm sorry, I just can't quite place it. Fortuna, could you tell your guard dog to go sit in the corner like a good pet?
Arkadiy has every right to be at this table, just like everyone here. Yes, it's such a shame that name slipped your mind, dear cousin. And we also have Vincent and Solovita here. We all have accounts to share of the information that we learned while we were out gathering information. And I'm sure, dear cousin, that you must have gathered actual information more than just rumors to share at our table.
We live with an ever-sink Fortuna. Rumors are as important as actual information. If you ever seek to ascend within the hierarchy of the family, you need to learn this lesson. If you are ever going to be my number 2, I will need a far more capable and quick-witted person. Now, if you have something to share, please do so, dearest cousin. And Arkadiy, please, off with you. This is...
Alvera, please, I'm trying to read. Do you have to talk so loudly? I'm trying to read over here.
Oh, you brought that one. Oh, how wonderful.
Oh, you're still talking. I just hear a buzz,
goodness.
buzz. It's disturbing me.
Well, Solavita, if you wish not to be here, by all means, I think I speak for, everyone, Pelletier, Eliana. Yes, you may leave. You are dismissed, dear. Go back to your little attic and
It was getting
chew
very
your
boring with your
fingernails.
fluff of air coming out of you. Anyway.
Off with you. Off with you. No more allowance for Solavita. No more buying of books. No more protection from the City Watch for your little experiments with sorcery. Oh, you think we don't know
no more
about
little
that? Of course we
presents
do.
for Auntie Elvira.
She looks at you.
Presents? What presents? What are you talking about?
Well, stuff for the family. Whatever. I'm going. Fortuna, you can deal with her. You'll find me in the library later.
Cousin Alti, would you like to have a seat? And we can
I've been sitting
perhaps...
this whole time.
Well, there was so
You
much air
clean
coming
your
out. I wasn't
eyes, my
sure.
dear. You're
that
putting too much makeup on, and you're incapable of seeing things clearly, apparently.
I do. There was so much doing the dirty work out and about does tend to make the glasses a bit smudgy, and she'll kind of take her glasses off and do a little like, oh, yes. I wasn't sure there was so much hot air coming out. I wasn't sure that you were still seated. But yes, let us all gather around.
You hear from Eliana as she kind of chuckles at your little joke.
And so Fortuna will kind of try to gather everyone to kind of sit down and share what we've learned.
Okay. So at a certain point, you will. And Arkadiy, I will say there is sort of a look from everyone, including Eliana, when you got so close to Altavera, when she is so close to your matriarch, like this head of the table, it's just all women. And the fact that you like mustered up was kind of looked at with, like, it was taken note of. Like, you can definitely tell that many of your fellow cousins and such kind of took notice of this ascension of Arkadiy in a position that is not normally accustomed to men.
So he noticed, I mean, he's very vigilant, so he probably would notice that, and he would...
Oh, for sure.
Say, dear cousin, forgive me for intruding at your table. I simply felt that you had needed information to be given. Admittedly, I am but a humble cousin from a faraway city, and where I was from, our matriarch, my babushka, valued my opinion. So I simply was trying to give you my opinion. But I understand you do not need it from me, so I will retire. And he just sort of fades behind her into the shadows and just disappears.
Okay.
He's still in the hall, but he's just not seen because he's really good at that.
And there's plenty of like little patches of shadow, and you can see that there's like servants and such that are like seated in various places, like not at the table but around it, and like some people are like sitting there waiting and looking like they're waiting to come speak, but they're just kind of going through the usual like arguments of family. Okay. So Fortuna, you said you had stuff to share. Is there anything that you're looking to do in this situation?
I would say that Fortuna would kind of want to turn to everyone in the group. So she would turn to Vincent to kind of discuss, kind of what we learned about who the victim really was, and turn to Arkadiy to discuss the missing statue. So she would kind of make sure that everyone kind of has their chance to share kind of what they learned, kind of turn to Solavita about the discussion with Mario. So we wouldn't hold anything back. Obviously, this is our family, so we would kind of be discussing everything we learned in the last few hours.
Okay. And so if that is the case, like, we don't necessarily have to role play your debrief, but if you're giving all of the information that you share, that's perfectly fine. It's definitely, you can tell that Altavera is very unimpressed. But you would probably guess that is her default mode. So it's less an assessment of the information that you gathered and more her assessment of you. And she more than once mentions how the City Watch will be here in the morning, as they apparently have questions. one of the watch investigators. And she says something about you all fleeing the scene before they were there to arrive, and all these types of things that are apparently just running rampant. And so the scuttlebutt across the neighborhood is that you all killed a Bonaventure, attacked a Carnuccio, and then tried to flee the scene before the City Watch arrived. At least that's how it's being painted by certain parties within the neighborhood.
Fortuna just sort of looks to Arkadiy like, that was the argument that you were making, was it not, cousin Arkadiy?
Indeed, Fortuna. I tell you, it's like this. Ever think she is a weapon, and if the family does not wield the weapon will be wielded against us. So we need to take advantage of what it has to offer. But lesson learned. We will deal with the watch in the morning.
Speaking of weapon, that's actually one of the things that we wanted to look into while we were here, and that might already be with the book that Solavita has, but there was indeed a dagger that used to be ours that was in fact the murder weapon, and I did verify this, but needed to, I believe that had been put in the cell pile, as it were, last time we were going through the archives and deciding what could...
The cell pile? I beg your pardon, Fortuna. What dagger is it that you're speaking of?
And so you can see that's Pelletier with his like slick back, like fading red hair, his big old golden spectacles.
The dagger, please, could you expand? Did you happen to bring it with you? It might make it easier to assess its current values for resale.
No.
Why sell something once when you can sell it twice? Yes.
Yes, but part of the problem is that the fact that we sold this item that very clearly has our mark on it, we have now been framed for murder. And while I did not stay to Cousin Arkadiy's recommendation to meet with the watch, we did not abscond with the murder weapon, as that would have most certainly made us look suspicious. But I can give you a detailed description, and so she'll go into a description of the hilts and the decoration and all of those types of things. And I do hope that you have that listed, date of sale.
Well, if you would like to retire with me to the accounting chambers, we could go through the logs and such together. I'm sure we could get to the bottom of this.
Yes, we could certainly do that. I would hate
a second set of eyes would be very useful. A third, if possible. Where is that one? Yes. Oh, yes, you there. Solavita, was it? Yes, I know you have an eye for reading. Perhaps your eye for numbers could be just as useful to the family, if you don't mind.
Uncle Pelletier, no, I unfortunately, my reading is not so good. I need to practice, but thank you very much.
I understand. It's very, I understand. It's
very difficult. It's a very hard skill, yes.
Yes,
you do it very well. I wouldn't want to intrude.
Oh, it's very kind of you. Indeed, it is. It's very kind. Well, I just was inviting you because it would be just such a
I appreciate it. I don't want to step in. You and Fortuna are so good
together. You're very kind. I just wouldn't want Mother Eliana to feel as though you're not attempting to protect the family by all means at your disposal. And she's right here.
I will do everything I can, but I do not want you're doing
Excellent.
it so well.
So you're joining us
I would not
Wonderful.
Want to intrude.
Yes.
I cannot show nearly as much skill as you. So I will not get in the way.
Fortuna is going to kind of look back to Solavita and just say, "Oh, my dear, I did not believe that you were so excited to remain in the hall with Cousin Alti. This is, you really are. Oh, the interest in family affairs is
yes, very interested in family affairs. Thank you, Fortuna.
Wow, you're going to stay. That's just...
you didn't want some private time with great uncle Pelletier.
Great, Uncle. Wow.
She's
Well,
got a
Uncle.
stare that I think we've been
What,
together.
even your uncle?
Oh yeah. No, I'm picking
You
it
got
up.
an
I'm
out
picking
here
it up.
if you want it.
Okay. I'm happy to lend my skills to the
Oh.
family.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic.
Yes,
Now,
for the
if you'll-
family.
if you'll excuse me, we can go ahead and we can get to that right
you
now.
owe me Fortuna.
And so he stands up and he's got this like glorious, like flowing robe that just looks not even remotely close to the style of the day. And he leads the two of you towards like the accounting chambers. Meanwhile, Vincent, you've been in this dinner. You've been kind of off to maybe to the side somewhat. You've been quiet. Is there anything you've been doing? Anything you've been looking at, or anyone you're looking to talk to while you're here?
Yeah, chat with the nearby people. If I've heard word of a group traveling into the necropolis. Who was the god that night?
The guard. There was no guard, but from Fortuna's like summary, she would mention that there was a caretaker on duty, and you all briefly spoke with her as they were preparing the necropolis for cleaning it up and kind of barricading off the wings that were not going to be on display for that day. But if you raise that question, one of your other family members could easily point you to a Petronella Corvo, who was a caretaker and historian. But guard, not quite so much. It's really just patrols of City Watch that would be there. Think of like a caretaker. They're not like a priest, but they do have like associations with the church. But they're more like they're caretakers of the dead, like somebody who would tend to a graveyard or a cemetery, but it's more tending to like statues and things like that.
Understood.
You feel or you hear a very small. Excuse me, Mr. Vincent Guy. May I have a moment of the time, please?
Of course, I have all night.
And you turn around to the voice, and you notice that it is it's not coming from one of your family members, but it's actually coming from one of the servants who work for your family. It's a man you would probably know him, as he has a fairly revered position. He's the keeper of foxes. Your family has an emblem of trees and foxes, basically, and it is something of your insignia. So you all, much like others would keep hounds, you keep foxes, and so he is the keeper. He is a young man, kind of sun-bronzed skin. He's got like this rugged charm to him. Very, very attractive in his 30s. You know him as Gustavo Bolzoni. So, Mr. Vincent, is this going to take a very long time? I was promised a moment to speak with the matriarch, Mainwall, about an issue with the foxes.
Speak with her. You can speak with me about it.
Well, and he looks up, and you can see like Altavira and like a couple of the others. Maybe Fortuna and Solavita have left at this point, but you can see that others have certainly presented their issues. There's more like fighting going on. This room is filled with like a couple dozen people, so it's not just you all. But he kind of calls you over, and he says, "There is a bit of an issue, I'm afraid to say. And he looks very, very like nervous, especially talking to you. You have a reputation. But he says something has happened to the foxes. They are very sick. You see, I have fed them and I have cared for them as I always have. But of late they have gotten very, very ill. I'm very concerned. A few have already passed away. Have already died in the night, and others are just as sick, and a few are missing. And I am afraid. I'm afraid of what Mistress Altavera might say if she learns of this.
No doubt she will say it is my inability to care for them.
It's so sudden. Since when?
Oh, yes.
And he's kind of thinking, and he's like looking around, making sure like no one else is like listening. And you can tell that every now and then, Vincent, like someone in the family, like eyes, like look, you could feel eyes on you, and you look up, and maybe there's Altavira, even though she's talking to one group of people, she's looking at you. Or you can even once or twice feel the eyes of the matriarch herself just staring down at you. You're not sure if there's recognition in those eyes, but you can tell that she is looking in your direction. Or some of the servants kind of look over and then they scurry away once you look up and catch them. So you can tell there's people possibly overhearing. And he says, last night they were all filled with spit and vinegar. They were yipping and barking all night. They were very angry. Well, this morning, the entire kennel was beset with some sort of illness. I found a few that had passed in the night. My favorite pair is missing. Oh, Pepe and Bella, they are not here. I have searched the entire grounds. I cannot find them.
I'll have to take a look at this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Vincent. Thank you so much.
So he like kind of gets up and bows and bows. And he's like, with me. I will take you.
I'll go with him.
Okay. So we're still in this scene on the main wall and estate, but you guys have kind of spread out a little bit. Fortuna, Solavita, you go with Pelletier. Vincent, you go with Gustavo. Arkadiy, you were in the shadows. Is there anywhere you want to go, or do you want to slink with one of them?
No, he's going to stay in the shadows, and he wants to listen in on the conversations going on around, especially whatever Altavira has to say, because he's firmly in Fortuna's camp, so he's collecting information in case.
Gotcha.
We need
we can start with you then, since you're here. What skill do you think you're using to do your reconnaissance here?
I mean, I think either stealth or vigilance. I mean,
okay,
both I think
for
would
sure
make sense.
I think vigilance is perfect. So like you are in the shadows, you blend in with the crowd at times. Very rarely does anyone ever look at you directly, but maybe one person might catch the tail end of you as you slip from one spot to the next. I would say that what you definitely hear from Altavira is multiple times she will make very loud proclamations about the capabilities of Fortuna. You can see that definitely Fortuna is the primary subject of her statements, and she says that like it was a mistake sending her, and many times, and she's saying this always loud enough so that Eliana, the matriarch, can hear. So that's definitely an obvious thing you hear. The other thing she mentions is how. Two other things you catch, I'll say. One is that Father Torel, who is like a neighborhood priest for the Church of Denari, who there's a church, there's like a small like neighborhood church that's kind of on the grounds of the Carnuccio estate. He has apparently reached out to the family and is essentially insisting that the family contribute funds to repair the damages to some of the statues. It is only fair. You were there. You were part of the scuffle, and so that is of concern. And that until such time as you do so, you will not, like the family will not be welcome at any of the services. As essentially what's happening. And that also one other thing I would say is that Altavira mentions how they've made overtures to the Carnuccios, but they have not received any other than a very curt note that there will be an investigation and that an inquisitor has been called for from the church and will be here post haste. And all of that comes under the umbrella of, if not for Fortuna's failures, this is what happens when you give her the responsibility, and now the family is in the position it's in. Okay. We're going to then shift over to Vincent. So, Vincent, you are led outside of the main halls. It is a very circuitous route that takes you to this big spread of greenery, trees left and right. You can see that there are torches and sconces and various other sources of light here or there as you descend these old stone steps. You can see off to the side there are a few servants that are drinking in the shadows, probably taking some of the wine that was likely supposed to be poured for your family and taking sips of it themselves. And when they see you descending the stairs, they quickly try to hide it here and there. But Gustavo leads you away from the main estate. Now, the estate itself, like we've mentioned before, is sprawling. It has different annexes that are connected in all sorts of ways. It was not designed in a manner that suggested anyone had any foresight. It's definitely like this mixture of architecture. But he takes you to this sort of rear section, this swath of land, and you can even hear the sounds of the water and hear gulls and other birds maybe in the distance, and maybe you can see a shadow or two in the sky as they fly past. On a bright day, you might be able to look out onto the waters from where you're at. But he takes you inside this kennel, and you immediately are hit with the smell of death. It is a smell you probably are familiar with, unfortunately. But you've maybe been inside the kennels before, maybe you haven't, but this is not a regular smell. You know that underneath it, there is the usual types of smells of animal feces and such that might kind of permeate here and there. But for the most part, it is all completely overwhelming the senses. And he leads you over, and you can see this whole run of these kennels. And in each one of them, well, actually in most of them, I would say about 75% of them are full. There is a unconscious fox or pair of foxes in the case where breeding is being tried. And none of them seem to be awake. And it is also at that point when you notice how quiet it is. There's no yipping, and they always yip. And sometimes when you just walk around in the back, you can hear them yipping. You see them running back and forth across the grass, but it is very, very quiet. And he's like, this is what I was saying. Look at them. They are all very, oh, goodness. I don't know what is befallen them. Mr. Vincent, please help me.
I've been here once when I was younger. It was much more lively. Death lingers.
Yes,
you call upon me and you think it's beyond. I think it's beyond natural.
I don't know. There's not a sickness. I know the foxes, they get sick sometimes. It happens, but all of them at once and immediately. That is very strange. I checked at the food, and the food seems fine. They ate well and heartily. There's no signs of it. It happened overnight.
You've been the fox keeper for years. I trust your abilities here. It's not natural.
Thank you. I've learned it from my father. We are very happy to have been serving. The Bozzonis are very happy to have been serving the Mainwallans all these years. My father and his father. Yes.
Do you know why the Mainwallans picked the fox?
No, I don't.
It's because they're ambitious, driven to succeed, just like the Mainwallans.
Oh, yes. You are very wise. You are very wise. That is a very good choice.
And he's constantly bowing a little bit. All right, what skill would you like to use? Actually, just tell me what skill you're using as you take a look.
Sense corruption. Maybe something unnatural is going on there.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just checking one thing really fast. You said corruption.
Yeah.
Okay. What you can see, corruption is really kind of about the idea of like sensing like the signature essentially of like where sorcerers might have casted some spells and corruption might have sort of invaded the area. As you go from kennel to kennel, or as you look in the entirety of the building, you sense no signs of it. There's nothing here to suggest that sorcery has been done within the area, especially sorcery that would create any kind of lasting taint on the area. You do notice, as you look at most of the foxes here, that they are sleeping. They're all unconscious. Poking them will not wake them up. Loud sounds do not wake them up. So you can tell that they are still living. But he's like concerned because they haven't drank or eaten in like all day. So like he's concerned that this is just they're just going to get worse and worse and worse. But you don't get any sense of corruption.
I should have brought Arkadiy. I think he has wilderness mastery.
He does not.
He doesn't.
He does not. None of you took it, which makes sense. I understand. Is there anything else you would like to do, or you could try like if there's I would say, do you have any points in vigilant?
Let's see where that is again.
I'll take vigilant or leechcraft, maybe.
Dang, I don't have any of that.
Vigilance is under Sentinel. What about do you have bind wounds?
I do as a general, yeah.
If you want to make a bind wounds check, you can make a bind wounds check to sort of do a better assessment of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take that. But that's a check, so it's a D6. Yeah. And remember that you can spend points before the roll to get a bonus to the roll, and the difficulty will be 4.
I'll spend 2.
Okay. Sounds good.
I got 4.
Got it. Nice.
Okay. One of the things that becomes very clear very quickly is that they all have some symptoms that are very obvious, in that they have discoloration on their gums, they have discoloration on their tongues, and even the ones that passed away, which he has not yet buried. And they're more than likely, what he's probably going to do is he's going to take the furs, and then they're going to dispatch with the rest of the carcass. But even those themselves, they also have that same discoloration. And you would know, probably because you all have debriefed, that the same kind of discoloration was found on the mouth and body of Carlo Moretti, the dead body inside of the necropolis.
Here, Gustavo, this discoloration going on. What have you been feeding them? The food supply, where's it coming from?
It's the same place it always comes from. Nothing has changed, and nothing has changed. I can show you.
And he'll like bring you over, and you can see like there's this section within the kennel, different sacks and crates and stuff like that of various meals and whatever. And he kind of makes this this kind of mixture, this kind of composite that then kind of goes into these various shops. They treat them more like dogs than like wild animals. And he's like kind of pointing to each one of them, like here's this and here's this and here's this, and he's like there's nothing, and like he sniffs it, and he even takes a bit himself. I even tried it myself, and I did not get sick. I was fine. And he kind of goes through and he looks at all of those. Is there anything you would like to do? You could. Do you want to inspect some of the materials? Do you want to inspect the area? Like what do you think Vincent would do in this case?
Just a note for Long.
Okay.
When I did Leechcraft on Carlo before with the substance, it was sort of found to be some sort of type of like old anesthesia that an older doctor would use before surgery. So a small amount probably not going to cause issues for humans.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think you would know all of that stuff about.
Right.
Yeah, I mentioned it.
And, all that stuff that Vincent would know.
Not here last week is all. That's why I was saying it.
General inspection. Maybe ask him if this was a new shipment, anyone down here besides
We've
him?
had these for weeks. No. In the kitchens, they break down some of the meats and things. And like the grains have been here for the weeks ago. We kept them in. Everything has been, nothing has changed. There's been no change.
Then I'll have a look around for like burglary, see if someone snuck around, went a way that he didn't see.
Do you? There's a couple different ways you can do this. Skullduggery, if you want to say you're using skullduggery, to sort of get a sense for that. There's also, what's the other one?
Felonious intent.
That's the one. Felonious intent. Yeah, perfect. Okay. You notice that there is one of the windows that come into this place that kind of drop down into one of the kennels. You can see as you're looking at it that there is evidence that someone has kind of jimmied open like this, like some of the bars themselves. Like there's a handful of bars here and there, but you can tell that they've been shaved away. And as you go to reach to move them, it comes out completely. Like the bar itself has been removed. It definitely looks like somebody used this little window to come in and out of the kennel. There does not seem to be any, like there is a lock on the kennel door. It doesn't seem like there's anything was done to the kennel door. Like it doesn't look like the lock was messed with or the door was messed with, but you're certain that someone kind of came in and out of this window, or at least at some point someone has.
Take a look at this, Gustavo. There's been an intruder on our grounds.
Oh no. Oh, do you think they stole a Pepe in Bella? Oh, goodness. Oh, no. Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vincent. I'm so sorry.
It did more than just that. There's food here. Must scrap it all. New supplies in order.
I must scrap it all. But a whole other order. Oh, goodness. Oh, okay. But you know what's wrong with them. You can help them, yes?
And he's like, really, like, you could tell he's like earnestly, like, terrified, and he loves these animals, and the fact that they're sick is like, you can tell is just anguishing him.
I'll find Solavita. I think she knows more about this.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Vincent. Thank you.
And we will cut then to Solavita, who is in the accounting room with Fortuna, and so here at Solavita, as your uncle Pelliatier drops a big tome in front of you. Same thing with you, Fortuna.
Thank you so much for being willing to read through these. I'm sure your great grandmother will be very appreciative as well.
Okay, so what the two of you are basically looking at are inventories of various vaults that you have access to somewhere on the manor. So you can, so if you have some skills that you're looking particularly to use, so I would say things like, I would say anything like your
nobility or something.
Nobility
like that?
Would be fine. I would take nobility. Nobility is more of a social skill, actually. I would probably say
lore.
Forgotten lore.
Just reading.
Sure. Laws and traditions would probably be a good one. Yeah. But if you want to make a forgotten lore spend, Solavita, there is something that you could potentially learn.
Well, you'll know how to get me to spend very quickly, don't you? Okay, here we go. I will spend one.
Okay. So he plops down a handful of these old tomes, and you can immediately tell these are not organized well. There is no real order to them. They reference all sorts of different vaults, and they reference like different wings and levels within the estate. One of the things you notice as you're going through them, though, is that there are references, these little crib notes, to a specific vault, or like a sort of like a sub-location, like a crib note that doesn't seem to align with any of the wings or of the storage units that you would know of. And it's like referencing something called the old trade vaults. And you've never been there. It's not a place that you have ever visited, and like historically, like places like this and other places across everything, sometimes you lose track of things and like weird stuff gets lost. But it does seem that it's referencing a location that is no longer, at least on the surface, referenced amongst the family. Is a secret vault.
Solovita will kind of like make a side scribble in one of her books, and then she'll make eyes at Fortuna. And Uncle Pelletier, do you have water that you could go quickly? I'm in halfway through this book, but do you know where the water? Yes.
Yes, one moment.
And he picks up a bell and rings it, and you see a servant come scurrying.
Yes,
could you please get dear Solovita here a pitcher of water?
Just water is fine. Just normal
sure
water.
You don't want wine, is it?
Well, if I want to be able... You know what? Wine would be very good. We should definitely share a bottle of wine.
Yes,
Lots of wine.
Wine. A good vintage, please.
And you can see like there's a grimace on the face of the person, as they're not that type of servant. They're dressed like a accountant. and they're like, yes, Mr. Pelletier. And they like step out and they go and fetch you some wine. Come back, pour it out, no problem.
My dear, these are very important. We're looking through very important information. Do you really think now is the time to imbibe?
Well, I'm fairly certain, and I'm going to, as I sort of talk to Fortuna, pour a very generous cup to Pelletier. I mean, as long as Uncle is happy to help us with this, here, let me top you up a little bit more. We want to make sure you're good.
Oh, careful now. I do have a delicate sensitivity to the red, but
yes, that's I remember.
Yes. You don't tell Olivera.
No. It will be a secret for us. Oh, it's just a special occasion for us three together. Here, let me finish.
It's like spilling down his mouth at this point. Yeah. Okay.
And then sort of, he's maybe not quite as clear-headed. And so look here, in this book here, there's references to an old tomb of some kind somewhere.
That's quite interesting. Did you empty that cup already? My goodness, we should definitely get you more. And Fortuna's caught on. And so she's kind of like,
is this my second or my third?
Oh, no, it's still your first one. You never even hit the bottom of this one. There's still stuff in there.
Oh, my goodness. Give me a check for this. Give me
a fine wine.
Give me a quick check for this.
Fortuna?
Just a simple sway. Sway is fine.
Sway?
I can do a spend for that.
Okay, thank you.
I will. Let me remember how to do this again. No, I meant to do a spend of 2.
Okay.
That's still going to give you a 3 total, I think. Okay.
So he's like, no, I think I should be clear-headed for
but he's already drank like 2 cups at this point, so it's not like. But he's like,
I think that's enough for one night. Thank you very much. That's
very, very reasonable of you. Yes.
And so like he's still kind of like swaying left and right, and he's relatively pale, and so he's getting a lot of rosiness starting to show in his face. Like the capillaries are really starting to glow. It's getting up there. Okay.
The old trade vault. That's very interesting. Were you? Is that where the dagger was from? Were you able to find
I think it's something maybe separate, but if we can find the location, maybe we can figure that out. It's not referenced together yet, anyway.
So you're going to keep looking for the dagger then?
Yes, I'm looking for the dagger.
Well, looking for the dagger? Oh, it's a shame you didn't take it with you. Like, I'm pretty sure it'd be easy to match it up.
I suggested we could have.
You know what? Here, if you could get me a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm sure I can draw you
ding,
what
ding,
it looks
ding,
like.
Ding. You see a servant comes rushing in.
A pencil and a pen for my
paper and pencil.
Fortuna. Yes, for Fortuna, please.
Yes, paper and pencil. And she genuinely wants to draw it because he's so insistent that if he had it in front of him, he would be able to find it. So she does want to draw him a picture of the dagger and the
fantastic
decorations.
Do you have God, what would drawing go under?
That's a real good question.
That's
Vigilance?
an interesting question. I mean, I'll take it because it was like spotting the details of it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
In this case, I'm not going to say it needs to be a particularly good, unless you want like a picture perfect rendition of it, which is your call. You don't, I would say no, the spend here probably wouldn't help you too much. But if that's all you're doing.
As long as I can do enough that he would recognize it.
Okay. So he takes a look at it, at your drawing.
Oh, you have quite the gift. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, this is wonderful. This is well done. This is an excellent likeness indeed.
So you can find where it came from, yes?
You've been
complaining that you didn't have it, so I thought a picture would be the next best thing.
Oh, yes. I think I recognize this one. Yes. This looks wonderful. And he
pulls up another one of these tomes and flips through it. Kind of.
Yes. It was in one of the. Oh, yes. It was sold off in a group of our weapons. You know, we used to collect and craft very fine weapons. Many generations ago. The art seems to have been lost at some point as we elevated ourselves away from martial prowess.
You were certainly not insinuating that I don't know this part of our family's history. That must not be what you're saying. Right.
There's no reason to get upset here, Fortuna. I know that you're very ill-tempered. Altivera is very clear about that, but I'm merely just trying to give you information.
Oh, I see.
Well,
she's
actually,
the sweet one. Oh, my mistake.
Oh dear.
You guys have a terrible family. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Right.
He's like,
we're not good people. It's fine.
I believe this was sold off to a jewel crafter as part of a very discreet sell-off of some of our finer items just a few weeks ago in the temple market. As a woman by the name of, let's see, what was it? No, that's not correct. That's not a name. Oh, that's a picture of a dolphin. Why is that there? That's curious. Oh, here it is. Stefina Verducci. Yes, jewel crafter. Lovely woman. I've been told. I didn't make the trade-off myself, of course. It's a very long walk, so I had one of our many runners do it, but I'm told she's a very lovely woman.
I beg your pardon. You did not make this sale of this valuable dagger yourself. Did I hear that correctly?
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, excellent. Altivera says you don't listen very well, but it seems that she is mistaken. Excellent.
I would never deign to suggest that she was wrong about anything, of course, but I must ask, which of your assistants did you send on this very long walk?
God, they all look the same to me. Goodness
that is an unacceptable response.
Oh, goodness. One second.
Ding, 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 ding. Someone comes in.
Yes, it's this one right here. This is the one. Yes. Henrietta, you were the one who took the dagger.
And she looks down. She's like, yes, ma'am. I took it over. Yes. You could see like she's just like looking and kind of like you could tell like she's just doesn't want to be in this room. She's like, yes, I took it over as I always do. Yes, I am the one. Yes.
Yes. So you took the dagger, and she'll show the drawing just to confirm. So this is the dagger.
Yes, among others, there are other things in there, necklaces, jewels, and things of the like. Yes.
Okay.
Out of the style.
Before we leave, we'll want the full list, but specifically to the dagger, was this item requested, or how did it come to be in this batch of items that were sold?
Oh, she kind of just looks over at your drunken uncle at this point. He begging your pardon. He just puts things in a bag and tells me to go. I don't ask too many questions.
I see. Is this generally that you have an amount in mind, and he puts together a bag that might meet that amount? Is that about how that works?
No, I make sure that that the sale is on the level. Don't worry. I would never harm the main one. You've been so good to me.
That was not my insinuation. Just was wondering how he gathered which items, and it sounds like if he wants a certain amount to come back.
Oh, well, it's a very complicated process where I cross-reference all the various vault inventories, and I look for assessing the arcs and the valleys of the markets, and then I do proper calculations. It's all very technical work.
Uncle, that sounds like something that Fortuna would love to hear all about.
Oh, excellent. I would be more than happy.
Yes. I really think this is like everything that she's ever suggested to me. Henrietta, I got here is, and I'm going to slip the half bottle of wine in Henrietta's pockets for her trouble.
We'll say
a nice wine.
Okay, she said, "Oh, thank you, And we'll say at this point, that's when Vincent might show up. But that's also, I think, when we'll probably cut over to Arkadiy as well. So Arkadiy, you have been lingering. You can see the dinner has kind of started to fade a little bit as various people have kind of gotten up and started to go to bed. It's getting later in the evening, but that doesn't mean you can't do something. Is there something Arkadiy's looking to do?
Once the dinner starts to break up, Arkadiy would probably slip away and see if he could find Vincent or Fortuna, just to fill them in on what he had heard and see if they figured out where the dagger was.
Okay, I think that's perfectly fine to say that Arkadiy, Vincent, you bump into each other in the hall, and then you find after that Solovita and Fortuna as you step into the accounting's office. Solovita is handing over the wine to Henrietta, one of the servants. You can see that your uncle is currently mansplaining to Fortuna how accounting works. And yeah, that's the scene. So what would you all like to do?
Oh, yes, that's so very interesting.
Yes,
I really would enjoy that, Fortuna.
Standard deviation, and then you carry the one, and I think...
Yes, and it seems to be so complex with all of these books. I wonder if consolidating into fewer books might make it slightly less complicated. I wonder.
Well, that might be so, but if you look to the wall here with our array of ledgers and books, it looks all very impressive, does it not? If we were to consolidate, that would be very less impressive, don't you think? It would imply that we don't have as much in the vaults, reserves and such. That would give off I would imagine, a very wrong view of the state of affairs within the main wall and banner.
Are you frequently giving tours of our vault to outsiders?
Well, I haven't personally been inside one of our vaults. I hear they're quite dusty, but normally I send one of the servants there, of course.
Of course. It would be such ever so long of a walk. Cousin Arkadiy.
Cousin hello
Arkadiy,
there.
Welcome in.
Oh, dear Fortuna, it is so good to see you again. Such a gracious invitation, and dear cousin, we have things that we should be discussing. When you have a free moment, I would not take you away from your revered uncle, but there are things you should be made aware of.
Oh yes, I do believe. I think we're. And she sort of looks to Solovita and makes sure that Solovita got everything that she needed about the dagger sale.
I think we have everything we can get from this so far without doing a little bit of other stuff. Actually, Arkadiy, I've got some information for you for later as well.
Excellent.
You know what, Pelletier, thank you so very much for all of your assistance. We should leave you to this very
excellent show.
Complex and important work that you do for the family.
Well, the two of you were also very, very helpful in aiding me in the endeavor. I'm so very glad that we all could work together as a family.
Happy to show how well we can work with the family. Well, Oliveira enjoys a dinner and wine. Well, we do lots of little bits and jobs for the family, yes.
Oliveira, that's an interesting name. It's very similar to Alphavera. I wonder if do we have a new cousin from overseas that I'm unaware of?
That's definitely a new cousin.
Oh, Perhaps one of Arkadiy's friends or such.
You might want to clean the ears out. I think you might be missing.
Oh, I have a servant for that. Henrietta, please.
Ding, ding, ding.
Poor Henrietta. We got to rescue her.
She's got to get paid so much better than she gets paid.
Fortuna just sort of like extends her arm out for Arkadiy to walk her out the door.
We'll say that you guys can remove yourself from the earshot of Pelletier, and you guys are out in like a hall somewhere off to the side. No apparent eyes or ears are on you. It's the four of you. And so you guys can decide on your next steps, which would be what? What would you like to do?
I bring news from the Foxkeepers Den.
Eh? Oh, what's wrong with our foxes?
Seems their supply's been poisoned. There's been a burglary or an invasion on our grounds. The same poison you found.
What?
Well, it's not so much a poison, but the medicine. But any medicine can be bad if you do too much, you know? It's an anesthesia, like old doctors use to, knock out and help patients.
There's much of it in the food supply. The foxes are dying off.
Solavita, is there some way to reverse the effects of this anesthesia to bring the foxes back?
Well, Jeff.
You could roll a check. You could do a leechcraft spend. There's a lot of things you could potentially do. You tell me.
Okay, so I think I'll do a normal check because I do only have one.
Okay.
I don't want to lose leechcraft if we need it again later.
I think we have some refills if we need. Like,
okay.
Don't worry about running.
So what I would tell you for free is with your level of leechcraft, you would know that there's definitely there's probably some kind of way to
charcoal meal.
To accelerate the body's expulsion of the substance. You would know that it would leave them eventually.
Yeah.
But more than likely it's having a greater effect on foxes. So they're smaller, you don't know the dosage, etc. So there's a lot of things, a lot of variables there, but you would know that there's ways to do it. So you certainly could try to do that.
I'm happy to go with you, Vincent, to take a look and see what we can do. And I'm just going to do a roll. I won't spend for this to see if I just have a little bit extra information.
Okay.
Nope. Okay, I got the 5.
Okay. No. I mean, that's plenty. I mean, if you're doing a bind wounds check, yeah, you could. You said charcoal. That would be fine. You could try to get them to figure out ways to get little speckles of that, and maybe get them to kind of vomit up the substances. You would probably be a little concerned since it's on their gums and places. It might be in their bloodstream already. So you're not sure exactly how effective that would be at this point. You would probably guess that filling them with fluids and things like that, just something to accelerate the body's natural process, is probably the best way forward without potentially harming them further.
Fortuna, you should talk to Arkadiy about Stefania Votucci, but Vincent, we should go look at these foxes, and then we can also have a little discussion about some information that I think you might find interesting.
Vincent, were there, I hate to say this, but did we lose any foxes? Were you able to see any spirits when you were out there?
I should have checked, but some have died. We've been missing some. Not sure if they've been burglared.
I do not understand. Is this just to hurt our image? Why on earth would you go after our foxes?
No, they are assaulting us from multiple different areas to throw us off, to keep us off balance, to force us on the defensive constantly so that we are unable to see the greater plot. However, Vincent, if someone has managed to sneak there and poison the foxes, there would be nothing preventing them from delving deeper into the family hold. So I would very much like to see the kennels myself and see if I can find a trail of these culprits. So I will accompany you as well.
Of course.
Okay. We'll reset the scene then. You guys are back at the kennel, and you can see that Gustavo is there. He is like very apologetic to everybody else now. But he's also like, thank you so much for coming to help. I promise I have tried everything. I love these creatures. I do not want anything to harm them. Whatever it is I can do, just please.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
and then Solavita will give him the info.
Okay. And so thank you. And so he'll go about like, and you can see that he already kind of has been doing it, where he's got like these flagons of water and he's trying to like get them to drink, like even though they're like kind of unconscious. And every now and then you see like a tongue wag and loll and try to bring some in. So you can tell that some of them might be okay, but it's like they're still not waking up. But he's definitely tending to it. We'll say he can very easily do that. But he's within your shot if you wanted to ask him anything. So
Arkadiy would just be using vigilance, and he's trying to cipher out any additional clues in and around the window or in and around the interior of the kennel, and then maybe right outside of the kennels to try to get a better picture of how they executed this assault.
Would you want to do a vigilance spend, as that could glean some information?
Absolutely. I will spend a point of vigilance to glean some additional information.
Okay. So what you notice is that there are tracks outside of your kennel. You can see that there definitely appears to be a loose like brick or two that might have suffered if someone who was like kind of climbing up a bit on the window. And you can see what looks like a couple flakes of kind of filament where maybe they kind of sawed through something, one of these windows. But even more than that, you are able to follow some of these tracks from this window through some of the vegetation. Like you all have a very beautiful, albeit batshit architecturally anyway, estate. And you have beautiful flowers and you have blooms and all sorts of such. And you are able to track what looks to be a single set of tracks that seems to lead back towards not the main gate, but there is apparently like a wall that goes around your estate grounds, and you're able to find like a section where it looks as though somebody vaulted over, and it looks like there's signs of like maybe like a hook, like maybe a grapple or something like that had hooked over the edge of one of the walls, and you can see like there's a little bit of debris there, and that likely was how somebody climbed over. You also would notice with your spend that there is, as you're looking here, you realize that there is now in the same area, which lands like by this like boulder, this chunk of rock or stone, like limestone or something. You can see that what catches your attention is that this looks more recent than Gustavo might have described. He said it was happening last night. And you remember that there was like a little bit of rain last night that probably should have washed some of this away. But then when you look, you can see there's like fresh dusting. And then you realize that there is a whole mess load of shuffling and tracks and drag marks and things like that in the area, suggesting that somebody else much more recently has come over this fence or this wall.
Do I get the impression that they're still on the grounds, potentially?
You don't see any signs that they have like you definitely see that there's some disturbances on this side of the wall where like they kind of hop down and like the ground has been matted in a bit. They didn't leave their device, whatever it is they were using, so that's not still here. You're not sure that they have left the grounds. I would say that's probably unclear even with a 1 point spend.
Okay. The drag marks. What is it? Is there any indication of what it was they were dragging?
You recognize the width and the depth and the scraping of them. It looks not unlike what you in Arkadiy discovered when you were moving about the Age of Assassination way, when you found the disappearance of your funerary statue. You can see that like whatever it was something very heavy. and it certainly has the same width and profile that you saw when you were in the necropolis.
Sorry, I know I'm not in the scene, but just to ask, like, someone snuck in something or someone snuck out something?
Snuck in.
Snuck in.
You can see like as if somebody like was handing stuff over, and like there's like a thump on the ground, and then like Arkadiy, like I think of it like the old Sherlock Holmes on BBC, and like you're doing all these calculations, you're seeing this, and like you're dragging. That's how like you're envisioning the scene, this sort of forensic site, and you see like someone sort of dragging something heavy away and then lifting it so as not to like drag it too far.
Can I determine the direction of the drag before it became obvious that somebody picked it up? So I might be able to maybe follow that general path and see where that may have gone.
You think it's going towards the like southeastern edge of the estate property. You know that over there's like a kind of a fairly ornate, what are those things called? There's sort of like a fairly ornate, like kind of porch area where people kind of sit around in a fire pit and they look out on the ocean. And then there's like a set of stairs that goes down to like a private little coastline onto the water. And you know, so it's going off in that direction.
He would quickly go back to the kennels and go, "Dear cousins, we've had a perhaps even more recent breach of our security, and it appears that they have dragged and or carried something over the wall. There's a striking resemblance, at least in weight and width, to what Chauncey and I saw down in the old family crypts. I believe they've taken it off towards the southeast section of the estate, near the porch and the private secluded beach. I believe that we should investigate this immediately. Particularly if they are attempting to frame us for theft, we want to make sure that whatever is on our property is not on our property when the church inquisitor and the watch get here in the morning."
You say it's recent, it must not be far then.
No, definitely, since last night's rain. So this is much more recent than the kennel poisoning. They have been apparently using this section of the wall to come and go as they choose. We must definitely tighten our security.
Let's get the others. Catch up to them.
Okay. Pavilion or gazebo is sort of like the word I was looking for. Okay, so is everyone going? Fortuna, Solavita, you all good?
Yeah, I don't think I had immediately gone with them, but I will join them at this point. So it seems then that they drugged the foxes just so that there wouldn't be the yipping while they were going about the rest of their business, perhaps?
Could very well be the case. That's a very good case.
Oh, dear, poor things. I do hope that we can find Pepe and Bella, but other things to attend to. You are right, Cousin Arkadiy.
Why take some? Well, I guess I don't know that we want to find the answer. Okay, well, if we can find... Arkadiy, you're saying same drag marks, so we're thinking another big statue, yes?
It is of same weight, approximate, and same width, so could very well be another statue of same size, perhaps.
Or it could be our good grandfather Casalar again, I guess. But yes, I can do some stuff to get it moved somewhere else.
Okay.
Excellent.
So you all traversed this sort of lush lawn. I like to think of your estate. You guys are free to embellish on this as well. Like, I think you guys have a private wall surrounding it. I think there's lush vegetation. I think there's occasionally like a random tower or a building that just happens to be here, like some annex. And there is this pavilion or this gazebo area towards the southeast side. And you know that there's like a private little area down by the water that it's not like a beach so much as like on low tide, like you can definitely get some some ground, but for the most part, the water will go up and cover like half of the seawall. Now, when you head over towards the pavilion, you can see that the lights are off. There's no like torch lights or lantern lights. There's nothing up. It's not necessarily suspicious as it's late. And Arkadiy, you've seen most of your family that lives on the estate has retired, and there doesn't really appear to be anyone out here. What is everyone using when you come here? Is there any like what skills are you doing, or what like your investigator skills? Like what are you looking for? How are you looking, or how are you investigating the area?
I mean, Arkadiy's going to stick with vigilance. I mean, it just seems to make the most sense in the circumstance.
I think so. Anybody else using anything they want to call out?
If Vincent isn't, then Solovita definitely is using a sort of burglary to take a professional eye to the area.
Okay. Vincent, what do you think?
Yeah, mine would
Vincent
be the Feldus tent. How would they be set up here if they have anything hidden away?
Okay. And then Fortuna, is there anything as you come to this side of the lawn?
I would say either, because I don't think laws and traditions would really come into play here. So I think vigilance.
Okay. Okay. So those of you that are using vigilance, you would definitely notice immediately upon arrival that the large stones that make up the floor of this pavilion, these huge planks of stone, they are very much askance. You can tell that they have been, with some force, pushed aside. And you can see, as you look, that there is a wedge, like a pizza slice almost, that has been revealed. And there is a partially dug up chunk of dirt that has given way to a trapdoor of some kind, as if there was a trapdoor buried beneath the stones of this pavilion. None of you, unless you made a spend, would be familiar with. Those of you using burglary, so in the case of Solovita, one of the things that you would notice right off the bat is that there is a small, thin wire that seems to be right across that door, and hidden in a bush there is what looks like a bell of some kind, as if it's like a signal, like this is sort of like if someone were to try to open this, it would set off a sound.
Don't take another step. Arkadiy, you see Vincent, this little wire here? There's a bell over there, I think.
And then Vincent, with felonious intent, hanging from the sort of the rafters of the pavilion, your family has these beautiful crystal lanterns that are extremely well made. They're like the equivalent of like a stained glass, like something the Church of Denari would have displayed. And your family hangs them with great pride, as they are extremely valuable. And no one has even thought to take them, it looks like. And that seems a bit odd, as if this was just a group of thieves trying to steal valuable things. These are very easy and can easily be grabbed, like plucked down from the rafters, like you're plucking fruit from a tree, and they haven't touched them at all.
This is more than simple burglary. They left our treasures hanging there.
I think perhaps we should disable this trap that Solovita found and quietly and stealthily make our way down through this trap door and see if we might fall upon those who would try to make prey of the Manwallen family.
Well, give me a second here, and I will do what I can with this wire and bell. So I guess I would like to do a roll for burglary to disarm trap.
Sure. And I was giving, by the way, I said burglary, I meant skullduggery. Skullduggery is what.
Or skullduggery, sure. Sorry.
But no. You would roll burglary because burglary is general, skullduggery is investigative. So
right.
the roll would be burglary. Yeah, and like this is more about can you just disable this without like setting off whatever sound making device this is. Mm-hmm. So just give me a burglary roll.
I am going to give it a +3 boost because I think this is fairly important.
Nice.
Good call.
Definitely needed it.
Would be a 4.
Especially when you roll a 1. It's very
That was
important.
a very prophetic spend. Okay, excellent. You're able to undo it. One of the things I'll also say to you, Solovita, since you're the one doing it, is you notice as you go to like unravel the bell from the wire, you notice at the last second that this isn't just any basic bell. You see scratched into the bell itself, there's various runes, and you think that this is a trap that is not just purely mundane, but also has some sort of sorcerous component. With your knowledge, you would know that likely if this rang and went off, it wouldn't just ring like a normal bell. It likely would send that sound somewhere else. But you are able, with your roll and your knowledge of sorcery, to keep it from emitting.
Oh, someone was a build very much close to mine that is uncomfortable. Has done this. Vincent, I have a present for you, maybe, if you would like it. A little magic bell will ring who knows where, but very loudly somewhere.
Let's definitely not ring it before we catch these fat fiends in the act.
Okay. The way is clear from my end.
Okay. Do you all descend?
So Arkadiy would probably go first, using stealth to, try to quietly scout out the area, keeping an eye for additional potential trap.
Fortuna's looking behind us, like just making sure, like as they're going down, that no one else is kind of coming up behind.
You all descend carefully, and it is a lengthy and winding staircase as you go down. And Arkadiy, with Solovita's discovery, maybe you're being even extra careful with each step to ensure there isn't some other notification device, etc. Fortuna, you're taking up the rear. Maybe you hear the distant sounds of Chauncey yelling out, "Wait for me!" as he's like calling out and he's stumbling trying to find you all. But you all descend. It is very dark, you realize. And I'm going to assume someone has a lantern with them. That's perfectly fine. Or you can take one of the things that were hanging and kind of carry that with you if you like. But without lighting it up, you would have essentially no vision as everything is dark. Are you all okay with that? I don't want to just presume.
Okay with having it lit up.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we have.
I think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to have a little bit of light.
Yeah, you can keep it low and dim and kind of keep yourselves. And it's not a hooded lantern, but you can sort of manually hood it if you like. I just want to I didn't want to like force that in case you had a different idea. So, Arkadiy, one of the things you notice as you're descending, there's obviously signs of wear and tear of people coming and going. But there is like a couple tufts you see here and there of like orange fur that, not unlike some of the foxes that you have. Not all of the foxes you have are like red or orange fur. Some of them are brown or different colors, but you do see like a little tiny tuft of it here and there. And for some kind of secret staircase beneath a gazebo that none of you really knew about, it seems odd to find this. Eventually, the stair opens up a bit, and you see you are in what looks to be a kind of a larger vault area. There's kind of a landing spot, and then there's a couple what looks like doors into these little alcoves with different sort of storage. There's certainly several like old crates and barrels and sacks that look, I mean, ancient is overstating it, but they certainly don't look any recent. They look like they haven't really been touched or explored or moved because they are covered in coats of dust. But you can see them. They're stacked up here and there. And a couple of them you can see like rusted tools. Old crates that you can see are marked with various seals, like Denari over here, your family's crest that you might emblazon on some of the salt that you would import from your lagoons. You can see a lot of those things that are stacked up here and there. There is
very quietly leans over to Solavita, and she just kind of like whispers in her ear, old trade vaults? Because we just seen kind of this vault name that we'd never seen before, and then we just come across something we've never seen before, and so...
Yes, I had the same thoughts, but I didn't think they would be, well, found so quickly. But the question then is, how did somebody else know that they were here? They were just in those books.
Not, and Fortuna's like personally offended that this was something that she did not know.
I know, right? I mean, Jesus. Uncle Pelletier is not doing his job very well.
You hear?
This is
well, actually, I'm doing my job wonderfully.
No, we don't hear. He is
right behind
very
you,
passed out somewhere.
Try to poison me with wine, will you?
I will.
Okay, so you do notice a landing, and you can see like there is like a central kind of a central hall, but then there are a couple different alcoves that you can see, like separate chambers that are split off on either side, fairly symmetrical. Everything's stone. There's very little signs that this is like there's a lot of upkeep. Like it doesn't look like any place that you would explore normally, but you definitely see some etched and faded crests and things like that all around. So that's what you guys see.
Do we see any disturbances in the that indicate somebody's recently been through here?
Yes, you can definitely tell the ground is heavily scuffed up from, so you can see like there's layers of dust on everything, but the ground itself has been, people have been, moving about significantly. Drag marks, foot marks, a couple paw prints. You can see all of that scattered about. You notice in one corner, there is a bloody rat carcass that seems to have been chewed up a bit. But otherwise has been, but you don't really notice anything else. And it looks as though the blood coming out of it is still red. Doesn't look like it's really kind of congealed too much yet. So it's probably not that old of a kill. Doesn't look like there's any signs of like it being stabbed or shot. It looks like animal on animal crime kind of deal. If you're peeking further, you notice that in one of the alcoves, there appears to be a altar. That looks like it's got the swan symbols of Denari. And you can see in another one of these alcoves, there is a stack, or not stack, I should say, a series of shelves. One of the shelves is slightly broken, of more elaborate chests, not like wooden crates, but these are like with latches and adornment and metal, all of which have locks on them. And then in a third alcove, you can tell that there's it's almost like an armory, as you can see what looks like these old weapons and armor, none of which look in particularly good shape, but you can see like they're hanging on the wall here and there. Some of them bear a similar crest that you've seen on the dagger. These definitely look a little older though. What would you guys like to do?
Arkadiy is continuing to try to follow the path of the of the invaders. He's more focused on tracking them down than being interested in what he sees around him. He sees that as his role.
I would say Fortuna keeps being drawn to like a chest or a crate or something. Like she wants to go look in it, and she's kind of bringing up the rear. And every time she goes towards to look, and then she turns back, then like everyone's disappeared, and she's got to catch up to them. And she just keeps sighing because she desperately wants to know what's in this place that she didn't know of. But Arkadiy is keeping us on task.
Okay, Vincent, what are you up to?
Yeah, I wouldn't fall too far behind Arkadiy. We could always double back.
Okay. Solavita?
Solovita might take a quick glance at the altar for the Nanari family just to see if it's recently used, but otherwise try to keep up.
Denari is the goddess, but yeah, so do you...
Oh, right.
As you're looking at it, let's see. What could this be? Forgotten Lore might... what do you think you're using? Forgotten Lore is not quite right.
Well,
Laws and Traditions is ideal, but...
Oh. Fortuna.
No. Forgotten Lore is fine. I'll take
Forgotten Lore is okay, because that is pretty
precise.
much my, main one here.
At first glance...
City Secrets, maybe? I do have City Secrets, but this feels more family.
Yeah, that... I think City Secrets is more about like finding the secret routes and stuff like that when you're traversing and moving more quickly throughout the city. I'm okay with Forgotten Lore.
Okay.
I would say no spend initially, and then if you wanted to get more, you could tell me. But looking at it, it certainly looks at first glance, first examination, like a altar to Denari. Not uncommon. It has a small platform at the top where people can put down various offerings of whatever it might be. She's the goddess of commerce, but she's represented by swans. You don't notice any offerings obviously up here, but there is sort of an offering table. The carvings on it, and it is like a limestone kind of dealer, travertine maybe, are swans. But you can tell by looking at it that something seems off about the way in which it's depicted. The swans themselves look they look ill proportioned in ways, almost caricatured. Like they're kind of grotesque in some fashion, and I mean that in the sense of like the kind of like the artistic style, right? Like idea of it just seems more innate, and it's not a kind of a familiar way of demonstrating care for her that you might see from like the Carnuccios or anybody who is just modestly worshiper of Denari.
Shoot. Vincent, Fortuna, Arkadiy, please hold on a second. Vincent and Fortuna, you guys might be a little bit better, but there's something weird here. A second pair of eyes, just quickly before we move on.
If it's about the church, only a moment.
Only a moment. It's just this altar here for the Nari, right? The swans, there's something weird here.
Arkadiy just keeps going. He doesn't care about the altar. He's only got one mission, and that's to find the invaders. So
Fortuna's definitely going to go over this. She's been desperately wanting to do this.
So it's not. So I'll describe it this way, so that it's not like Arkadiy is going to suddenly disappear down a hallway or anything. It is there's like a central wide hall. I use hall, not hallway. So there's a central hall, and then there's these 4 alcoves that are kind of branched off. So Arkadiy, what I'm going to think in my head is that you're looking for a way out, like where because it doesn't take long for you all to go and peek into these alcoves, and there's no clear signs of anyone. So there's got to be some other way.
Yeah. He's looking for how they moved out of here.
Okay. And so while Arkadiy is doing that, while he's like looking for whatever, Fortuna, Solavita, and Vincent are over by the altar to Denari. Solavita has already used Forgotten Lore. Fortuna or Vincent, are you two using anything?
I have the church as an enemy.
No. I think this is totally fine.
That's so good. So perfect.
Do you want to spend that point?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Do it. Your time. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Do I need to roll or just spend?
No, it's just a spend. You're going to get some stuff for free, for sure.
I'll spend one.
So from your time in the old Summer Palace, which is a prison west side of Eversink, well away from where your family is. Would you say, Vincent, so there's the Old Summer Palace, the prison, there were places where people of noble birth could potentially purchase or pay for relatively decent quarters, but there were also like these horrific prisons and tunnels, like these subterranean cells for really dangerous criminals and for sorcery related crimes. Now, do you think Vincent and the family was able to pay off that you had a nicer time in prison, or do you think you were more in the bad side of town?
No, they stripped my inheritance, so they weren't going to give me any comfort. They threw me in the slums.
Okay. So then with that, what I'll say to you then is that as you were in the you were amongst some very questionable people, especially sorcerer cabals, various groups. And some of these groups, you could hear them babbling, attempting sorcery to try to break out, but the very walls themselves kind of keeping them at bay, somehow not allowing certain magics to take effect. You heard from one of these that they were a member of some kind of sect that not only didn't worship Denari, but were kind of actively against this notion of Denari as this goddess and savior of Eversink. And one common way that this would be depicted in like graffiti or imagery would be this kind of like grotesque, almost geometric style depiction of this swan. So you looking at this probably get this flashback, right? And you can like maybe you saw in like on someone like on a tattoo or something drawn on the side of a wall somewhere, this blasphemous, sacrilegious kind of depiction of Denari, and you're confident that this altar in your family's vault is the exact same type of imagery.
Oh, this is it. The defiled Denari. A sect of sorcerers.
What would this be doing on our property, in our vault? This makes no sense.
Was this... Can I look at the floor and see if this was one of the things that was recently dragged here?
It was not. It is coated in dust and grime, like every other surface that you, other than some of the places on the floor. I'll say from anyone who is using vigilance, you didn't really notice anyone messing around with crates, barrels, chests, or this altar, or any of the weaponry. It doesn't really look like anything in this area was messed with other than the floor.
Would there be any additional information that Fortuna would be able to gather with any nobility or anything else? Like if Vincent got everything, that's totally fine. I just didn't want to move on from the altar.
What would you be looking for? What would you be looking for?
Any family rumors of anyone that could have had connection to this? That someone somewhere, we quashed some information that dared say that someone was part of all of this nonsense.
And this is with nobility, huh? Like
and I'll spend a nobility if that would be
like in terms of allegiances. Like you're spending an allegiance point.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking social nobility.
Right. So social, like using nobility as that's a social investigative skill, basically. Or
Sure. But yes, allegiance. I will spend an allegiance for nobility.
Okay. When you were very young, and maybe we were going to school or not school, maybe it was a tutoring session of some kind. Maybe you and some of the other noble children or something like that you would get your lessons in numbers and letters, and then maybe sometimes you would wander out into Giglio Hill or wherever it might be, and you remember there was this one time that you found yourself by one of the veiled bridges that kind of lead towards the necropolis. You found yourself face to face with a man by the name of Alexander Dumas. He's the Mad Hermit. He's this eccentric person who is the self-appointed herald of your family, sings your praises, and he is a lunatic by all accounts. But you remember once that he kind of kneeled down and like handed over to you like a shell, and you remember like the shell, the like the various waves and the winding of the shell was very odd and awkward. And you remember him saying to you like something to the effect of like flashback, right? Like,
Your family are followers of the true goddess. Keep this, dear Fortuna, and she will find you with a blessing one day.
Yes,
she puts
Denari.
No, sweet girl. It was
I don't
not.
understand.
And so we see this moment, and he's just like kind of cackles wildly, and that's like when your tutor will come over and will kind of separate you, and maybe you keep the shell, maybe you don't. That's for you to decide. But you have that memory that suddenly comes flooding back into your mind.
Oh, Cousin Vincent. Yes, I almost forgotten. I'll have to go back inside and see where I found that. I was, but alas, I had an encounter with Alexander when I was out, and he gave me a shell and mentioned then she lowers her voice, not that she thinks anyone's around, but just the blasphemy that she's about to say out loud.
Sure.
And he mentioned the true goddess, and he did not mean Denari.
Well, that's a revelation.
I never know where to find him, where he is, but that's the only thing that I can remember of our family having that connection.
He's always yelling about. I think we even heard him on the way out.
That's right. We
How
did.
old is that man? He survived way longer than I thought.
He's very old, actually. No one really knows. He's a mad hermit. People kind of keep away from him. He's often being like sort of shooed away from various places. For some reason, he's arrested by the City Watch, but then he shows up again. No one really understands exactly how that works, but he's still there.
Solavita, perhaps there might be some book somewhere. This shell, I'll draw it for you when we get back, but there might be some other reference to the shell.
Well, I can certainly look in the library. If you give me an image, I can take a look at it and see what happens.
Arkadiy, have you found anything?
As you call out to him, Arkadiy, you, for a moment, are stumped. As you've been across the entire hall, in and out of every alcove. And you see no door, no window, no trap door, nothing. And then your vigilance will spot that there has been you can tell that something is a little bit off. And what's off is in that alcove that has those very nice chests that are, again, they're covered in dust and debris for the most part, but you can tell that some of them have handprints on them. And you can see as you're looking on the ground that there is a sweep, this arc coming out from the wall. The kind of broken shelf that these chests are hanging on has kind of drawn this very faint arcing line in the dust and in the stone. That now that you're over here with the the lantern, you can see in full fledged. You'd think there is like some kind of hidden door behind this stack of this shelf of chests.
I believe I have found the way that they have exited this vault. We should follow. And he will take a look for the latch for this secret door, try to suss it out. And being aware that they the back side of this, so he's trying to be very careful about how he opens it.
You, right as you're looking around for a latch on the shelf, don't see anything. But then you notice one of the chests has some fingerprints on. And you realize the chest might have something to do with it. You see the latch itself looks a little different. You go to reach, and you're right as you're about to grab it, you notice inscribed, etched into the latch itself, not unlike the bell, there's a series of these little runes and things like that. And like you hold your hand for a moment, and you notice that this is somehow enchanted or something, whatever the hell it is that Solavita and Vincent do.
Cousin Vincent, Solavita, my dear cousins, this chest here we must manipulate it to open the door, but someone has left some sort of sorceress trap or trigger on it. Is there something that you can do about that?
We can give it a read.
Certainly we can try, yes.
So
try. There is only two.
Thank you, Yoda.
And then when Vincent dies, you can say, no, there is another.
For Pete's sake.
Okay. The two of you putting your heads
there's
together.
a new theater play that I really wanted to go. I think they said that in there.
You look back and there's, and like, you can't find the stairs. Okay. So the two of you putting your heads together, you are able to recognize that not unlike the bell, this is literally it's a simple enchantment. It's there to just sort of signal and send a signal to somebody else. With the two of you together, and with Arkadiy having seen it, like you were able to once more figure out a way to sort of keep it from going off. What eventually you discover is when you flip the latch of the chest, you realize inside the chest there is the lever, and like you pull this lever and you hear this. And you see this dark, open doorway cut into the stone, and these dark stairs going down into shadow.
Oh,
so into shadow we go, yeah?
Well, yes, I suppose this looks like the way forward. Do we want to throw cloth over some of that stuff? Well, I suppose we'll just deal with it later. Okay, we'll go with the darkness.
Fortuna's looking longingly at everything else that she wants to look at and sees that Arkadiy has once again bounded forward, and she shuffles along, bringing up the rear.
So you descend. I'm assuming you're doing carefully. You guys are competent people.
Yep.
You know what you're doing. You find no evidence as you go down again this winding staircase that you realize you're starting to get the scent of like water damage. Like you could tell that there is moisture here. And even the walls themselves, as you brush past them, there's residue and grime that gets off onto your clothing. And when you eventually come to another opening, it is again it's a very grand hall this time. Much bigger, much wider. It is in a far worse state of affairs. But a few things stand out to you very immediately, is that there are these intricate and these grand mosaics that seem to, like in tile, intricately painted, that array across the entire hall. It's like the size of your family's grand ballroom in the estate, where you hold whatever events that your family might still try to hold. It's that size. And there's like a small dome to the ceiling, and you can see up there are these various mosaics. All around these mosaics, you can see signs of your family's crest. It definitely looks, in some cases, like your family is winning these various victories. You see them like in fencing duels, you see them on ships, like you see all these different these different images. But you also notice that there is a lot of damage. Many of these tiles are broken. Many of these tiles, you can tell, have some of the paint is peeling away. And you can definitely see that in some places, half of like this display is missing. And it almost looks like there's something else that it was painted over top of that is emerging underneath it. Looking around, you notice that similar to the other room, there are these series of kind of alcoves and such. It just looks like one big chamber with a series of these anterooms. And there's definitely like signs of Denari here and there, but at any point where you see like the swans of Denari, they're always small, minor, removed, but your crest, this fox, this tree, is so much larger. And you notice that there's something very odd about some of those foxes as you're moving about. When you're holding up the lights, you see on the ground, Arkadiy, assuming you're using vigilance, there is like some crumbled bits of fresh food. It looks like there's a couple discarded lantern oil, like casts for like lantern oil. It definitely looks like somebody has kind of rested here momentarily and like eaten or prepped. You also notice on the ground, I'll say, Vincent, you see like there's a handful of tiles that are on the ground that have been freshly scraped. You can see like fresh scrape marks. There's and like one, you can see in one of these alcoves like that, like there's a shattered fresco that seems to be 1,000 pieces. You can see in one of these alcoves there is, much like above, a pedestal, but it's cracked and it looks very much different than what you've seen above. And then there are these like, well, it looks like these old lanterns hanging here and there, but none of them seem to be lit. Once more, you see no immediate signs of exit from here, Arkadiy. Like nothing stands out immediately, but you do hear the sounds of distant yipping, not unlike a fox would make.
And he whispers, "We are drawing closer. Here are the foxes. We must find the way out of this hall and continue to track these culprits."
Tuna barely hears that because she's trying to take in all of this imagery like as fast as she can and trying to see like what was there before and what is there now, like what are they trying to do. So she's just like taking in all of these mosaics.
Okay. As you start going through and looking at them, one of the things you notice is that in some of the places where there's like this, like a mosaic or like a mural like depiction of your family winning some kind of like sea battle, maybe, like you can see people, like you don't recognize them, obviously it's not that specific, there's artistic license being done, but the ship that it's battling with has been like stripped away, and underneath it you can see that there is this other image that is covered in kind of grime and faded and it seems more like it wasn't so much painted on, but somehow like stained into the stone, like through some kind of special kind of kiln work. It looks, from what you can see, that there is like a tree in some kind of swamp. The tree itself has these branches and fronds coming up and out and over. You see kneeling beneath the tree is a woman. You think she is she's a little overweight, but you can see that she's not like obese by any stretch, but she is overweight and kind of animalistic in some ways with kind of how she's hunched down, almost squatting. And there is a blindfold like across her eyes. And she's like holding out a hand And you can see there's something hanging in it. It could be like an acorn, an almond, it could be an olive, you're not entirely sure. And you see that there is a fox that is getting very close to the hand. And that's when you notice, like, as the fox is leaning forward, it looks not unlike the fox in your family's insignia. You notice there's something very odd about the eye. And the eye of the fox is like kind of miscolored. It's glistening. And it's got this kind of vertical-like iris or something that seems discolored that does not seem to be associated with foxes. It looks like something else, like an eye of some other kind of creature, something reptilian.
And at this, Fortuna would gasp and wave Sylvina over.
Yes.
What is this?
Maybe great-grandmother Rithilde and her Serpentine language is showing through a little bit.
And she's, on one hand, just impressed with the artistry of all of this being down here. And again, she's just flabbergasted that this existed and she didn't know it, but that someone also put all of this work in here for the original art and the covering art. This is just most interesting. We must.
Was our family in part of a cult, like a really big cult before?
This is absolutely fascinating. That those foxes and why then were Pepe and Bella taken?
That is a good question. I think we can hear them. We should be quick about it if I think we want to make sure that they are still Pepe and Bella in the future.
Oh, of course. And Fortuna looks back to wherever Arkadiy is.
Okay. And so we'll end on like Arkadiy like shifting and moving around and looking for any signs of where the yipping is coming from. There are no halls. There are no doors. There does not appear to be any obvious way out of this area that seems to be filled with this mixture of imagery, both normal but also very odd in some ways. But it definitely bears the striking images that are commonly associated with for your family. But we're going to end it there as we are at time. And we will pick up here next week, hopefully with Jeremy in tow. He'll be like, "I'm Chauncey. Where have you all been?" As he just shouts really loudly as he comes stumbling down ass over end to the ground.
Arkadiy knows exactly why our family is faltering at this moment. He's going to be so impatient right now.
Yeah.
Well, but look at this Arkadiy. It's very interesting, no?
They're all just like
get distracted. We have a different approach to this type of thing, but it's okay.
We see it on your right back up. But all right, there we go. We'll continue next week. We'll have Chauncey. He'll come timely stumbling down to catch up with you all, and we'll continue exploring. See if we can find this yipping fox. Let's close it down. Let's do some closing plugs, and then we'll get on out of here. I'm going to toss it over to Aaron. Aaron, what is Garbly got going on in the new year here?
So as we're starting up in the new year, check us out. Pete is going to be continuing to run some Electric State on Tuesdays. I'm not sure if everything is getting back up and running this week. Discord and check in on that, but check out the Garbly Games YouTube channel for our current shows and the old shows. On Wednesdays, we should be starting up the new Judge Dredd game within the next week or so. And on Thursdays, we've got the Lord of the Rings, the Moria campaign coming up, and I believe Ben is looking to run some Otherscape in the near future. So
he did. He pinged me earlier this week and asked about it. Yeah. That's exciting. It's a really good game. Okay. As for us, what do we got going on? Tomorrow night, I don't know. I might run something off the cuff, or we might take a night off. We'll see. But we will definitely be back on Saturday as we got some Call of Cthulhu. Hopefully everyone's there. We'll see. But we'll be back on Saturday as we've had some interesting developments that I cannot actually plug because Melissa's here and Long is here, and they are on two separate sides of that story. So we're keeping it separate. Then on Monday, we should be back to Otherscape. Speaking of which, Tuesday, not yet, but we are coming up on something that Kipster will reveal. I don't know, maybe next week we'll talk about it more. And then, and that's about it. And we'll be back next Thursday with more Serpentine. We should be getting back sometime throughout January to kind of the schedule with Aaron doing some Dragon Mains on Friday. We've got Steven who's going to be taking over the other Friday. So it's going to be Steven and Aaron alternating. And then Kipster's going to be taking over on Tuesday. So we're going to have, we're gearing back up and we'll get back into the swing of things. That's what we got. All right. Let's go ahead and rate somebody. Our friends at Insomnia Night RPG are up and running as well. So let's go ahead and give them a raid. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. If you're watching this later or you're listening to this later, we appreciate you as well. Other than that, we'll see y'all later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Farewell.
Good night.
See ya.
There, gee.